to get slowly on one knee, and I don't know if you can see, he looks like he's proposing to some girl, and he's like, man, this is a gorgeous picture. I got to take a picture of this. So he starts snapping away, and he takes this picture, and he looks around and tries to find this couple, and he can't find them anywhere. He wanted to share, get their information, and share the picture with them, and eventually he goes and he posts it on Instagram or something, some online, some social media account, and he says, like, listen, I was there, I saw this couple proposing, it's a beautiful picture, I'd love to share it with them. If you're out there, let me know. And eventually it got back to him, and they found out who the couple was, and he shared with them, and so they have this beautiful keepsake of this proposal. There's also another story of these travel bloggers, husband and wife, and they loved going to different places, and they would take pictures, just gorgeous sunsets, and just all this beautiful landscape all over the country, all over the world. And eventually they made it to the same location, but she wrote next to one of her pictures in a post she made, she said, "A lot of us, including yours truly, is a fan of daredevilry attempts of standing at the edge of cliffs and skyscrapers, but did you know that wind gusts can be fatal? Is our life just worth one photo?" And you see people with some of these posts, you're like, man, that's beautiful, but man, be careful. And she posted this, and her and her husband were there a short while after at the same location where this couple took this picture, Taft Point, very popular place. And they were there taking photos, and a few days passed, and eventually some other tourists, some other sightseers, they go there, and they see just a tripod standing there at the edge of this cliff. And it turns out as they investigate a little bit more, they get some of the park rangers and other people and helicopters, they find out that the couple was at the bottom of the cliff. They did pass away there. The wind did overtake them. And it's just wild. She had just posted something like that. And then this tragedy a short while later. And this is the thing about life. I'm not trying to bring you the downer sermon today, but that's the thing about life, right? You're here one moment, and you're fully living the moment, appreciating, and we don't know what tonight will bring. We don't know what tomorrow will bring. We don't know what is promised to us. We don't know if we're going to make it to next week, right? And we make these plans, and we get excited and everything, but we need to take advantage of this very moment that we have. Like this service, as far as we know, could be our very last service. But we just assume I'm going to be here next week. I'm going to be able to see these people again. We take a lot of things for granted. In the book of James, he talks about life being like a vapor. In one version, it says life is like a vapor. I want to read a different version to you, a different translation. This is the voice. It's James chapter 4 and verse 13. It says, "Listen carefully, those of you who make your plans and say, we're traveling to this city in the next few days. We'll stay there for 1 year while our business explodes and revenue is up. The reality is you have no idea where your life will take you tomorrow. You are like a mist," some versions say vapor or fog, like a morning fog that appears one moment and then vanishes another. It would be best to say, if it is the Lord's will and we live long enough, we hope to do this project or pursue that dream. Life is but a vapor. Take for granted. James says, listen, don't just assume. You can make plans, but don't just assume you're always going to be able to do things. Put it before God. Say, hey, if it's your will, if this is according to your plan, may it be so in my life. When I was younger, I felt like, and I think these kids for sure experienced this, and the younger you are, the longer it seems that life takes, right? It seems like time just drags. It takes forever. And I shared this before, and this is so silly thinking about it now. But when I was young, I felt like summer vacation. My kids are on break now. My son just graduated. But my daughter's here on summer break, and it used to feel like it was like a year long. It just felt like it was, not those few months. It felt like we were off for a whole year, and then we go back to school, and then we'd be off for a year. It just felt like it took forever. And then birthdays. My birthday's on Valentine's Day in February. It's like, man, it takes forever till my birthday and forever till Christmas, all these different things. Always felt like it took so long, but then I would hear these adults talking about how time flies by. And as I got a little bit older, I started to see, wow, time is starting to pick up. Things are starting to move a little bit faster. And you guys would admit that the older you become, the more you see that, wow, time it is flying by. Where did time go? And we see that more and more. In the Old Testament, There's other similar language to the book of James. It says this in Job, the book of Job, chapter 8. It says, "For we were born but yesterday and know nothing. Our days on earth are as fleeting as a shadow." Another place, it says this, in Psalm 102, "For my days," in verse 3, "for my days vanish like smoke, my bones burn like glowing embers." And then Psalm 103, verse 15 says, "Our days on earth are like grass, like wild flowers. We bloom and die. The wind blows and we are gone, as though we had never been here." It almost sounds kind of depressing, right? Like we have never been here. You know, we're here for a moment. We're like grass. We're like the wind. We're like vapor, like this smoke. Here momentarily, and then we're gone. But the main point is this, and to quote one of the foremost thinkers, influencers of the 80s, that life moves pretty fast. We don't stop and look around once in a while, we could miss it. It's the main idea, right? Life moves so fast, life moves quickly. We need to be aware of that. And this is kind of how it goes. Just let me personalize it, and you can, think about your life and your experience, but it kind of goes like this. Perhaps a guy meets a girl, right? So this young guy meets this young girl, and they get to know each other a little bit, and maybe like 4 months later, they decide to get married. And just a short time passes, a few months pass, and they decide to get married. And then before you know it, you have just a few short years, and they have a few kids come along. And then a short while after, time keeps going, those kids start to get a little bit older. And then before you know it, they are graduating high school and different things. Eventually, they graduate college and they're getting married and they're having their own kids. And then at some point, you're empty nesters and looking like the couple from Up. That's life, right? Kind of looks like me, same glasses and everything. Life moves very quickly. This year it will be 20 years my wife and I have been together. We were talking about this, that we married really young, and my wife has been longer with me than not with me. And at some point you start to experience that, like, wow, we've been longer together than we've been apart. And so time has flown by. And here's the thing, like we can't control time, right? We can't control the speed of things. That's just the reality. The older we get, time is going to keep flying by. We feel like we're so much busier, and time just escapes. Everything seems to escape us. We can't control that, but we can control how we deal with that. We can control by answering a question every day. And here's the question I'll put for you this morning. How do you want to spend the short time that you have, the short time that we have, right? We can't control the circumstances. We can't control how fast time or what amount of time that we have, but with whatever period of time that is, maybe we have like a couple days left, maybe we have a few months, maybe we have 10, 20, 30, 40 years. Whatever that time period, we have no idea what it is, but how do I want to spend that gift, right? The short amount of time that we've been given. Because here's the thing, some people, they are, we take things for granted, we start spending time selfishly. And here's the reality, like some people, they love gossip. Like they just love, like they live for it. It's like, oh man, they get so excited, the latest thing, and they love hearing what's going on with other people, and they want to be the first one to share that, and they live for that. So the question is like, is that what you want to spend the precious moments you have, like living for gossip? Other people, they just love to complain and live in negativity. And I have to constantly catch myself because I can be very sarcastic and I start to point out flaws in things and I start to live in that world if I'm not careful. But if I knew I had a short time on this earth, like, is that what I want to be remembered for? Like, man, that guy Pete, he was always so negative. Always complaining. Every time, every conversation I had with him, he always like, well, the sun's not out again today. Man, it's sure this and that. Like, always complaining about something. Or you want to focus on something positive. Or maybe we're that person that's always seeking approval, right? wanting approval from everyone, from the boss, from family, from everyone, or others just looking for value in various areas of their life. They're looking for value and worth from their coworkers, from their, their relationships, from education, and all these different areas. The short time we have, we want to spend it selfishly, spend it on us, or we want to spend it on something meaningful, on serving and giving to others. I kind of share this before, and I always think about this whenever I attend a funeral. And I love hearing the stories, and it's a good thing that we don't bring out the garbage right at funerals, because, the reality is nobody is what we paint at funerals. It's always the best and the greatest moments. If we brought out the other stuff, it would probably get pretty ugly. But thankfully, we highlight the great things at funerals, and every single funeral that I'm attending, I'm hearing about this person's life, and I'm hearing about that person. And I remember sitting at one funeral, and the family was sharing all these different things, and then the children came up and said, you know what, one thing about our father, he was very selfless, right? He always cared about other people, always living for others, and loved community, and always sacrificing his time and doing for the people around him. And every time I'm at a funeral and I'm thinking about that, I'm listening to that, I'm like, man, what will they say about me? When I'm gone, what's going to be said? What's going to be my eulogy, right? What are they going to say about me, that life sketch? What kind of person was I? And I know that I naturally am a selfish person, and I have to remind myself that I can't always live for myself. I have to think about my wife and my kids and the people around me. And because when I'm gone, if Jesus doesn't come before I die, if I pass away, I want to be remembered for something good, right? And I think each one of us here would say the same thing. I want to be remembered for something meaningful, for something that I cared. I loved people. I took the time to invest in relationships. I really lived my life to the most. And not like, man, that guy, he just barely got by. He didn't really care about anyone or anything. He just coasted until he died. Like, nobody wants to be remembered that way. But it's important. The question for us to consistently think about, how do you want to spend the short time that we have here? So as we consider this question, I said I'm keeping it short. I'll bring it here to an end. I want to share just a few points of how you can make the most of your time. Make the most of your day. Make the most of the short period of time that we have here on this earth. So the first thing we can do, and let me just tell you, you guys, I'm not sharing anything that you probably don't already know, but here's the thing, we may know things. I know these things. I've preached this sermon before several times, but we need reminders, right? There are things on this list I'm about to share with you that I have to start doing again, that I used to do, and I said, okay, I need to start practicing this again. So I just want to share this with you for each one of us to consider. First thing to do to make the most of our day is very simple, straightforward, as believers especially, right? Nurture your soul. Nurture your soul. That's like, if you do nothing else, it's like this is the most important, because when your life expires, right? Unlike the Bible says, those that have no hope, the unbelievers, we still have something beyond that. That's not the last stop, right? We still have something else to look forward to. And that's because we nurture our soul, because we believe in God. And so it's important for us to spend each day investing in that, nurturing our soul, spending time with God, and everything else that'll flow into every other area of our life. Next thing I have there is rise early. And some of you have done this naturally over the years. You're like, hey, I can't stay in bed. I'm up at 4. I just, bed starts to get uncomfortable after a certain time. For me, for years, I'd go to bed really late. And I used to think like this was like a young and old person thing. I'm like, oh no, older folks, they're up at like 3 in the morning, they have breakfast at 5 and this and that. It's not true. My wife visits a lot of older folks, and they're like, no, I can't have you stop by at 10, that's too early. 11, they're like, man, these people. So it's not just older or younger. Some people, all ages, love to stay up late. They love to sleep in. They love to sleep 12, 14 hours a day. But here's the thing, when you're able to wake up earlier, you're able to get more done, right? We all have the same amount of hours per day, and I'm looking at this guy like, man, how are you so successful? How are you doing so much in your life? How do you accomplish so much? And I'm like, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for that. It's like, well, you do have time, but you're choosing to sit watching this, or you're choosing to sleep, or you're choosing to, just zone out somewhere. This person woke up at 5 in the morning, and they did this, they did that, they worked, all these different things. And so Something to consider. Rise early. And this is, I'm preaching to myself. I need to start rising earlier than I do. And not just my wife waking me up or, I need to do better in that area. Other area here I have for you this morning is, and of course this is going to be connected, rise early, connected with nurturing your soul. Next area there is eat right. Eat right. Once again, nothing that we don't know, but what we put into our bodies is what's going to come out right. Or like, man, well, how come I'm not thinking clearly what's going on? I feel so tired this morning and everything. But like, yeah, if I'm putting junk or I'm not putting anything, I can't expect like a vehicle, right? Can't expect my vehicle to run properly if I'm not taking care of that vehicle. And so common sense, but just encouragement for us to make the most of our day to eat right. Other thing goes along with that is exercise. People that exercise are happier, they're calmer, they have more energy, they're more optimistic in life. It gets them and just kind of flows into crossover to all the different areas that exercise, sleep, and diet. Other thing I have here, make the most of your day, is accomplish one big task. Accomplish one big task. I don't know about you guys, but I have at times been a procrastinator. And sometimes we need that motivation, like, no, I'm waiting for that deadline because that's what pushes me to get it done. But as much as possible, take the most difficult thing that you have to do and don't put it towards the end of the day. Take that and put it at the very top of your list. If you know you have to make that awkward phone call, right? And you're just like, oh, I don't want to call my cousin. It's going to get ugly and all this. Or I don't want to talk to my boss about that. Or whatever it is. Take that, put it at the top of your list. Knock it out. And then enjoy the rest of your day. You'll get to the other things, right? Because it's going to be so much easier for you to push it off, put at the end of your list, you're like, oh, I guess that I have time to call my cousin. Oh, I guess that I have time to, very convenient, and you just keep kicking that can down the road and it never gets done. So accomplish one big task, the most difficult thing. Other thing is do one thing that you love. We all have our to-do list. We all have things that we have to accomplish. My boss says I have to do this. My wife, the honey-do list, I have to do these things, right? And listen, do those things, but make sure that you spend time on yourself. Make sure that you do that one thing that you love. I for years, I've talked about, I said, man, I would love to write a book. And I was like, maybe I'll start with like an article, just a little article in a magazine or something. But it's one of those things I've talked about for a long time. I was like, you know what? I just need to start doing it. Take 10 minutes a day and start writing a paragraph here, a paragraph there. Or maybe you want to start a new hobby. Maybe you've always wanted to get into gardening, like whatever it is. But take some time during that day to invest in the thing that you love. And listen, sometimes what can happen is when we grow up, believe it or not, kids, when we grow up, like we forget the hobbies. We forget what fun is. Like we get so busy working that we forget what we used to do. Like I actually started thinking about, I was like, man, what did I used to do when I was younger? I used to love drawing. I used to love like all these different sports and different things. Like, man, I think I want to start drawing again. I think I want to start doing some of these things that why did I stop doing those things? But we get busy in life, so start doing something, one thing each day that you love. Maybe it's an instrument, maybe it's that book. The other thing is, of course, make sure that you are getting rest. It goes along with exercise, diet, and everything else. And of course, as believers, Seventh-day Adventists, we know that it was intentional. God knew that we would need Sabbath rest, right? He knew that we would need it. And so take advantage of the gift that we've been given once a week to enjoy that Sabbath blessing, a Sabbath rest. Other thing I have here is be present. Be present. It's really easy I get distracted very easily. I don't know about you, but I have the attention span of like a dog. I get distracted by squirrels and I get distracted by everything around me. And so like I'm talking, listen, I can't admit that. Okay, so I was training one day. I was training for something, and they were giving me this was legit, serious training for something that I need to be paying attention to. And the guy's like, okay, pay attention, guys. I'm there. All right, I got you. And he said something that triggered a thought, and I'm like, I'm gone. I'm like running over here in right field and just completely gone on my thoughts. He's like, you got it? And I was like, oh, man, I tuned out everything he said. So I had to go ask someone else what the guy said, and eventually I got the training down, but you got to be careful. So anyway, be present, right? Someone's talking to you, be fully engaged in that conversation. I mean, I got I always have my phone with me and all that. It's so easy. You get this alert, this and that, and you're looking down. I'm like, man, I thought we were talking. What's going on with that? And so I have heard that there are people out there that they make you feel like the conversation that you're having is the most important thing in the world. Like, imagine if we could do that for everyone that we talk to. Like, I mean, I know that we might give that attention to like a boss because, like, man, I'm really looking for that promotion. I'm going to respect this guy. But then maybe like the wife or the kids or that pesky neighbor that just keeps, he's always annoying, So like, but imagine if we were able to do that for everyone in our lives, right? Even if it's just a few seconds, even if it's just a few minutes, but like be fully in that conversation, like, yes, like, all right, listening, not just thinking about a response, not just thinking about how annoying whatever it is, but like actually fully engaged in that conversation, responding as if what they're sharing with you, that conversation is the most important thing in your life at that very moment. That would be amazing. Like, I know when people have done it for me, like, it really, I feel special. I feel like, man, this person really is interested, really invested in me. And I need to be able to do that more for people around me also. Other thing I have here is give to someone else. Give to someone else. One of the greatest joys that you'll find in life is being able to give towards others, right? The Bible says it is more blessed to do what? More blessed to give than to receive. And Jesus also talks about, I said, listen, I came, well, let me talk about that for a little bit. So when he says more blessed, it's actually Paul. Paul is talking about, Jesus says, remember Jesus said it's more blessed to give than to receive, which is interesting because Paul was in the same circles as Jesus, right? And so he says he always taught this thing. So like it was this known thing in the culture, in the people, that he hung around with, like the disciples and all of them. It was this known thing that Jesus always taught is more blessed to give than to receive. And of course, Jesus, he said he came to serve and not to be served. So I know that whenever you've done it, whenever I've done it, we've found so much meaning and so much excitement. And like, man, I just love bringing a smile to someone else. Even if it's like this small thing, like, hey, my neighbor could help. I see his lawn is getting pretty long. I'm going to mow his lawn today. Or whatever it might be. But like those little things, give to others. And of course, as believer, the most important thing that we can do, the most important gift that we can give is the information, right? The gift of salvation, to share that hope with people around us. And the last one here I have for you this morning is how to make the most of your day is reset. Reset. So you're going through your day, you're trying to, you're doing that one thing that you enjoy, you're doing the hardest thing and doing all these different stuff, you're trying to exercise and eat right and everything. At the end of the day, what can happen is our mind is just going, and we get there by our bed, we say our prayers and everything else, and we're laying down, and we're still going 100 miles an hour. And we're thinking about, man, tomorrow I got this thing and the other thing. We're so stressed and we're processing, and half the time we can't fall asleep because we're so stressed about everything going on. But it's important to reset, because what can happen is whatever mindset, whatever you go to bed with, you're going to wake up with that same burden, right? That's why I hate going to bed upset at my wife. Because guess what? I'm going to wake up. We're both going to be at the same place. Like, awkward still. I thought was that just a dream? So it's like, you have to deal with it. Here's the thing, and I talk this in regard to relationships. You may not solve the problem, right? You may not address everything, but at least come to a place of peace in that relationship. Say, we'll keep having this conversation. And whatever it might be, the tasks, the different things you have going on, take a few moments before bed. Say, Lord, you told us not to worry about tomorrow, right? Tomorrow's got its own burden, so stressed, all those different things. But this moment right now, I want to surrender this whole day to you. I want to surrender all the headache, the heartache, all the different things, and also the great things. Like, this day is past. I want to thank you for the good and surrender all these other things that stress me out. And I want to ask that you would reset me, that you would prepare me, that you would give me peace tonight to get the sleep that I need to take on the day tomorrow, the blessing that you have in store for me this coming day. Does that make sense? And so, think about life. I want to share this quote here in closing. This is author Beth Moore. She says, "This is our time on the history line of God. This is it. What will we do with the one deep exhale of God on this earth? For we are but a vapor, and we have to make it count." We are but a vapor, and we have to make it count. So that question again, how do you want to spend the short time we have here on this earth. I want you to ask yourself that question and bring it in prayer to God. Say, God, I know I've lived a certain way and I've done some good things and I'm happy about many things in my life. But say, Lord, show me what that looks like. Show me what it looks like to make the most of today, to make the most of whatever time period, like I said, maybe it's a few months, maybe it's years, maybe you got like still 40, 50 years, whatever that looks like. Show me, God, what it looks like to make the most of this gift, this opportunity of life that you've given to me today. Does that make sense? God bless you guys.
Let's bow our heads for prayer. Father in heaven, thank you so much for the Sabbath day. Thank you for the chance that we've had, Lord, to come and worship you, praise you, to fellowship. I just ask that you bless each person here. Send your Spirit to guide each one of us. And as we are about to partake of a potluck meal together, Lord, join us in our fellowship. I ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. All right, it'll be just a few minutes. We're going to move chairs around and then let's eat.